You know, you have to leave it to the internet to take a game franchise aimed primarily towards children and create enough theories based around it for me to fill up 7 videos. So as requested by you guys, here's my 7th batch of Fascinating Pokemon Theories. The Pokeball is probably the most recognizable item in the entire series, and for good reason. Since Generation 1, trainers have been using these red and white spheres to entrap Pokemon, but how do they work exactly? I mean, is there any logic behind why a Pokemon as big as Snorlax can fit into such a small ball? Well, when you ever watch a Pokemon come out of their Pokeball, you'll see a flash, almost as if there's some sort of light source inside the ball. Because of this, people on the internet have proposed that maybe Pokemon are able to convert themselves from matter to energy. Just think about it. How else could you explain how Pokemon are able to create moves out of nowhere? Perhaps they're creating these moves out of energy, and when they go into their Pokeball, they convert from a solid to a light. Something else that I always questioned in the Pokemon games was the herbal medicine energy powder. Even when I was little, I always thought Game Freak was secretly placing a reference to cocaine in their games by selling you a white powder, since cocaine is also white and causes the user to be alert and have energy. After a little bit of research, I have found that the illegal drug cocaine is almost non-existent in Japan, so this is probably just a case of me overthinking things, but I'll still always have my doubts. Slowpoke is easily in the top 5 most ridiculed Pokemon in the game's universe. People make fun of it mainly because of its brain-dead look, plus its Pokédex entries describe it as incredibly slow and dopey, and say that, awake or asleep, there's little difference. Slowpoke does resemble these remarks, with its perpetual glaze-eyed stare and only somewhat responding to being attacked, making some people believe it's stupid. However, things get complicated when you notice it's a psychic type, which are hyper-intelligent, and that it evolves into one of the smartest Pokemon in the world, Slowking. This has caused some to wonder what exactly is going on in its head. The internet seems to have come up with a pretty interesting answer. Some say Slowpoke always looks brain dead because it's all-knowing, and the constant bombardment of information leaves it detached and unresponsive to the world around it. If you buy into this theory, a Shelter's Bite, which is supposed to create a Slowbro, actually hinders Slowpoke's all-knowingness by grounding it in the here and now. Finally, it makes sense that Slowpoke evolves into the super smart Slowking. It just needed a little push in the right direction. While we're on the subject of Slowpoke, I should bring up that the games imply that Slowpoke tails are a delicacy and are eaten in-game. People were shocked to find out that the games make it clear that Pokemon are eaten. While it's true the games talk about eating the tails, you have to realize that they also say Slowpokes don't feel the pain of it being chopped off, and also it grows back. So I guess it's not that bad. Over 2 years ago, I first discussed the Cubone Kangaskhan theory that consisted of the idea that at one point in the development of Red and Green version, a Cubone was meant to be a baby Kangaskhan. And without repeating the theory, it was pretty convincing. But some people online have been claiming that there is now proof that this is false. You see, in Pokemon X and Y, they included a Mega Evolution for Kangaskhan, in which the baby finally comes out of the mother's pouch. When people saw this baby, they were able to easily tell it didn't look like a Cubone, so they took it as proof that the infamous Pokemon theory was false. But I think these guys are missing the whole point of the theory in the first place. In the theory, they talk about that in the development process for Generation 1, there was originally going to be a link between Cubone and Kangaskhan's evolution lines, but it was scrapped in the development. I bring this up because the theory is not about this being canon to the game series, so of course the baby Kangaskhan isn't going to look like a Cubone without a skull, since the idea was supposedly scrapped by Game Freak over 15 years ago. For my final theory today, some people have noticed that a song from Pokemon may have been inspired by a track from the Nintendo DS game The World Ends With You, but that's for you to decide. that was my 7th batch of Fascinating Pokemon Theories, and if you have any additional thoughts, please feel free to leave a comment below. So until next time, thanks for watching.